Hi everybody, thank you for having me back. I had a blast last time and I'm excited to be here. Today we're going to be doing a still life, and I decided to do something that would probably frighten most people because of the crazy colors in there. You can see I just keep going back and forth kind of looking at this and deciding, you know, where the light is going to be, what's going to make it more interesting. As you can see, the more light that's on it, the less interesting it is. And not only that, the less contrast there is, the less, the harder it is to paint. So contrast is a good thing. So happy Easter in advance. This is one of my daughter's favorite things.
That's what she's going to paint, so you can see it. All right. So as she's
And it
going,
just feels like spring out there. Look at the sun's out. All right, so I'm just kind of moving around, kind of moving things. I don't want things like the ear to line up with the basket handle. I want things to overlap. And what do you think is my center of interest?
The bunny.
Or the eggs, either one. But yeah, I think the bunny because the eggs are like the co-star for it. Now, you can see I have 4 eggs here, but I like to do odd numbers rather than even numbers. And the blue is kind of out of harmony because it's basically a green and red harmony. So even though that's a purple background, it has a lot of red in it. So that's why even the orange is a little bit out. But I'm not going to really concentrate on that too much. I put that in the background. I like the green here and the purple there. And I'm going to try to use a lot of those colors within the basket and the bunny as well to make it all unified. Okay, so I know you've seen me do the portrait, but this is my plein air palette, okay? So what I do with the still life is train my students how to paint what they see and use these great tips to be able to go outside and paint outside, which is so difficult because the light is moving, okay?
How do you keep that so clean?
It's brand new.
Oh.
My other one was so thick I couldn't even, and they don't make the same one, so I had to fabricate a little bit of it myself. I don't know if you've been on my Facebook page, but I just was up in Jeffersonville, and I did a week of painting plein air up there, and anyone who is anybody in the art world was up there that week. It was so much
I think
fun.
a lot more this year than ever.
Oh yes, it's really starting to take hold. And fortunately, it was warm enough that we were painting in our t-shirts. The last time I was there was 13 years ago, and it was a 0 degrees out, and we painted outside all day long, so it was crazy. But because I'm using a limited palette, this makes everything much easier to control. Okay, I have a cool and a warm of each of the colors on my color wheel. Okay, I have red, blue, and yellow. Those are my primary colors. So on this side here, and over here, if you cut this in half, these are my warm colors, and these are my cool colors. So all the colors that you see in the light right now are going to be out of the 2 colors that you see. So red, cad red is my warm red, alizarin crimson is my cool red. So all the reds that I see in my painting in the light are going to be from the warm puddle, and everything that's in the shadow is going to be from my cool puddle. So that makes it kind of easy, okay? Now again, I bought a brand new color wheel, and of course I left it at home. But I think you all are pretty familiar with what a color wheel looks like. Yeah. All right, so generally 2 colors that are opposite each other in the color wheel are complementary colors, or they're in harmony with each other. So in this case here, I don't have a yellow and purple, or purple and yellow, or green and red. So I'm kind of off to the side a little bit about that, which is a little bit more difficult for students to explain, to understand, but I'll try to explain it better. So again, cool, warm, and then on this side it goes warm, cool, and a lot of times my students will put all their warm colors on one side and all their cool colors on the other, which is fine. Always just do it the same way, so you're not looking for the color. All right, it's like the keys of the piano. You can't mess up those keys, you won't make any music. All right, so here's my dirty brushes here. And like I said before, I'm using all Winsor Newton Artist Series, except for my yellow ochre, which is Rembrandt. Rembrandt is better. Winsor Newton is okay. The yellow ochre in this is terrible, so I always use that. Use the best quality stuff you can buy. If you use Winton, you're gonna work twice as hard as if you use this. If you use this, you know, it's much easier to work with a really good quality paint, and good quality brushes, and good quality canvas. This here is the MDK, or something like that board, which I put 1 layer of gesso on the back and 2 layers on the front, and then I sand it down. Okay, so I also have my Bounty and my Viva. My Viva has no texture on it. My Bounty is strong, but it doesn't crinkle like the cheap stuff. Okay, so when I was a student, I used to always tone my canvas, but where we have these really hard, purple is probably the hardest color to get on here, and this color green too is really hard. So I don't know what I was thinking when I was going to do this, but I also have, if you go to Art School Live by Eric Rhodes, who does the Connoisseur magazine, I did a demo on there for Still Life, which you can look up. It has over 17,000 views on it so far. So, and that one, I don't know, I was on fire that day, and it came out really well, and I'm really happy about it. So I'm hoping that this happens the same. Now, if I was to tone this, I might do this in like a cad red. And I keep it really thin, and I start off with, I'm using Gansol right now, but I don't use this to clean my brushes. It doesn't do a great job. I use the Weber's Turpenoid to clean my brush. It works so much better. But all I basically do these days is just kind of throw them in the Turpenoid and then just rinse them out the next day and use them. So I don't wash them like I used to, but I paint with a lot of paint. If you use skimpy paint, you're gonna need clean brushes. All right, so I'm taking my Bounty right now, and what I would do is just move this all over the board and cover the whole thing, and I want about that consistency, but I'm not gonna do that today. So, probably the most important tool in my toolbox, and I've been painting almost 50 years, is my viewfinder. And it's just simply a frame that I kitty-cornered here. This one's getting a little flimsy. I usually buy like a stack of them and go through them. So what I'm going to do now is look through this square. I want to look through a square that's the same dimension as my canvas. So what I'm going to do is look through my viewfinder, and I'm just lining up the edges of my viewfinder with the edges of my canvas. So right now that's the exact dimension of my canvas. So when I go and I do this and try to find a composition, I'm going to be able to put it on here exactly. Okay, well, I have this color on my brush. So what I do is I draw a line going down and across, and I'm beginning my map. A lot of times I'll tell my students, don't be afraid to make your graph smaller. As you can see, I've been doing this for a long time, and drawing is probably my biggest forte, so it's very easy for me to see this and copy it because I've been practicing it for so long. All right, so what I'm going to do now is find a composition that I like, and then I'm going to bring my brush up the middle of it, and now I know exactly where the middle is going to be. So I have to figure out now, do I like it better with this higher, with nothing above this, like this here? Or do I like it lower and have a lot of empty space? So whenever I'm painting outdoors, what I try to do is find one thing that's really hard, like the eggs or the bunny. And even the basket, I can make it really less difficult. And then everything else around it, you want it to be easy, so you'll have plenty of time to finish what you're doing. So again, I'm going to go back, and I always double check that I'm in the space that I want. So I think I decided that I'm going to have the basket higher because this is kind of simple down here too. So right now, in the middle, that purple egg, the back of that purple egg is somewhere in the middle. And then I go back and double check. Then I see that the top of the basket comes about that far from the top of the canvas. So that is somewhere where that's going to be. And then I go back and double check. Now I'm going halfway, and not only is this purple egg buttoned up to that halfway mark, but the top of it is as well. Okay, so I'm guessing that's about that size right there. Okay, now I go back and I double check, double check, double check, double check. So now I'm seeing that the mat does this. Okay, so now I go back and I double check. So I see that the top of the egg comes to my halfway mark. This goes here, and then it falls right by that green egg over here. And that's exactly where I have it. Sometimes I scare myself. It's like, I get it right off the bat sometimes, and it's weird. But I went to a 5-year atelier, and the first 2 years you spend doing copying drawings from the book or brag drawings, and then you did cast drawings, which were very exact, and mine were like, you can't tell which is which, you know, the picture or the statue. And then from there we went into color. So we did that for 2 years. We learned how to measure, and then we went into the human figure, and we learned how to measure and do a graph just like this to be able to get the figure down quickly. So I've been doing this forever. Now I'm bringing my brush up like a level, and I see that both the purple egg and the green egg are level, even though it doesn't look that way to me, because this egg is straight on horizontally, and this one is kind of foreshadowed over here. Okay, so once I figure out all the main landscapes, landmarks on this, so right now I'm seeing the back of the mat is doing this. Here. So now I know, you know, how high things are going to come in relation to each other. So I'm just going back and double check. At this point, you want to be a little bit slower because you don't want to make any mistakes now. All right, so now I'm bringing my brush up like a plumb line, and I see that the edge of the basket comes about here.
Diane, this is the same technique you would use plein air?
Exactly. Yeah, I look through here, I'd measure what I'm looking at, I find where my major landscapes are, and then I go for it.
That makes sense.
And you'll see it goes really fast once I get past this point here. So if this is where the mat comes here, then I see that the edge of the basket comes a little bit higher than that. And I know that this is where the back is. So now I just have to find out where everything else falls in line. This is the basket actually comes to this edge over here. This egg here is probably a little bit bigger. I'm gonna make these just a little bit bigger. This comes over here. And then this one comes behind it here, which overlaps this cloth. So you know that if things are falling in the right place, I put this mat there. I see that this orange one is overlapping it. And then I see if I cut this orange egg in half, that's where the basket comes, and then the edge of the basket is. And then here's the flowers. And if I bring a plumb line up from the middle of this, that's where the handle starts over here. And then the handle comes about over here. So I'm going to be letting some of that handle come out of the painting. You don't have to have it all fit in there. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so now I see that coming over here. I see the back of the bunny's butt. I see I'm looking at this negative space in here behind the bunny of the basket here. So now I know that the bunny is going to be doing this here, his butt comes down there. And instead of thinking it as a rabbit, I think of it as shapes. So right now, his body is this big egg shape. I see his toe comes about this much lower than the green egg. here. So one of the toe that comes closest to me is there. I'm looking at the space, I'm gonna move this over just a little bit. I'm looking at the space between his chest and this egg here. So I'm looking at the negative space just as much as I'm looking at the positive shapes in here. There. Okay, so now I see this leg comes up here, this one comes higher than this one. This is folding back a little bit. Here's the back of his butt, which comes to the left of the handle. And then his little bunny tail comes over here. So this might be just a little bit high. Okay, so right now, I have just about everything in the painting. So I'm just gonna put his head in, and I see his nose comes a little bit lower than the top of the basket here. So this is doing, it's just another egg shape. And then I see this ear coming here, and I'm looking at the negative space over there. This ear comes a little higher than that ear. And that's all I'm gonna do for my drawing, because I don't wanna spend any more time. And this is why I don't do a good drawing, is because I'm gonna mess up the whole thing. Okay. So. Can you see all right? Yeah. All right, so now I'm squinting like my life depended on it. And I'm seeing what is the darkest things in my painting. And right now, there's not a heck of a lot of dark in this. So I said I'm gonna start with the red and green harmony. So, but the red is on the purple side, the red is on the, purple side, and the yellow is on the green side. The green is on the yellow side. So it's almost a purple, yellow, red, and green harmony. So I'm gonna mix some of my alizarin crimson and lemon yellow, and red and blue make purple. I shouldn't have put the yellow in yet because that dulled it down. So what I'm gonna do is use this for the backdrop of this basket because it's brown, and you can see the color I made was brown. All right, so I'm just going to quickly put my darks in. I'm not worrying if there's light back there because this is a basket. All I have to do is draw the background color in there and then come over it with some light, and it's going to be done. And it's going to be amazing to watch because you have to see it to believe it sometimes. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a different brush and I'm going to go back in, because anything that's in the shadow is my cool colors. And remember, anything that's dark is generally in the shadow. All right, so I'm taking this time my red and my blue. If I add yellow to my purple, it dulls it out, okay? If I put yellow right next to that color, it's going to either go brown or gray. So right now there's no complementary color in there, it's just a color, which is purple. So I don't know if this is right or wrong until I try it. And that's pretty good. Again, I scare myself sometimes. It just needs to be a little redder, but you don't know if this color is right or wrong until you test it. So I'm gonna just put it up here, and if I make a mistake, I want it to be on the dark side, not the light side. Okay, so my goal is to fill this canvas in the first half hour. All right, because you don't know if something is right or wrong until you have all the colors next to it. And you're best starting with your biggest brushes so you can fill a lot of space quickly. Okay, now this color could be perfect, but I won't know that until I put colors next to it. So that's why it's really important. Now there's a lot of artists like Richard Schmid can start from the eyeball and radiate out and get a perfect painting. I can't do that. I have to put it all in and kind of mold it like a sculpture onto my painting, which I think is just much, much easier. Okay. So as this purple goes into the darker area, I can add a little bit more blue to it. Because blue recedes, red comes forward. So these are good things to know. Because if you don't know how to make the color, you have a good idea because you ask yourself, is it in the harmony? Is it the right value? And there's so many questions that you can ask yourself. You know, if it's in the shadows and I'm choosing these two colors. So there's only 3 colors in the shadow and 3 colors in the light that you can actually choose from. Now before I put this color down, I want to use it everywhere before I go to the next color. So right now I'm just moving this. I'm seeing with my drawing is off just a little bit. So now's the time to fix all these things. So I'm trying to use this color everywhere that I can. Again, I'd rather err on the dark side than on the light side. Okay, so those are my darkest darks. That looks good. I see a little bit of a, and because it's in harmony, you know, it's going to be very easy to touch up. Like right now, there's not real purple there, but it's the value's right. And value is more important than color. If you get the value right, it almost doesn't matter what color you use. So I'm not too concerned about that at this point. So now I want to get the shadows in the basket. Well, on the inside of the basket, it's in the light. So I'm not going to use this yet. So right now I'm just going to take a little bit of white to that, and a little bit more blue, and I'm going to put the shadows in on the bunny. Because basically, I'm not coloring this in like a coloring book. I'm putting the colors down, and then I'm going to, like I said, mold it all together. And it's so much easier to do it this way. So I see a little shadow up in here, little shadow over here. Don't forget the cast shadow from the bunny. And by doing things this way as well, you're saving time because you're using color everywhere before you have to go to the next color. Now what I forgot to do was to look at the colors in the flowers. But that's okay, because I still have this dark on my brush. I'm using a little bit more blue in here, just to differentiate it from those other purples in here. All right. And you're always better off using more paint rather than less, because you can take it off. And having more paint on it means you can blend on your canvas better, and that is the fun part. Okay, so now I'm going to take another clean brush, and this time it's probably easier for me. Usually if I have this, well, it is the green and red harmony. I'm going to take my cool green, just mix a little bit of white in there, and see what color I get. And that's almost a little bit too blue. So I'm going to add a little bit more green.
What green is that, Diane?
This is Viridian green. That's my cool green. So now it's a little bit too blue, so I'm going to add just a little bit more yellow to it. And that feels a little bit better. And again, this is my shadow color. And where the key of light here is pretty high, there isn't a lot of dark in these colors. And again, if I'm going to make a mistake, I'd rather make it on the dark side. I don't see as much of that shadow there, but it doesn't really matter. So now I'm going with the orange one. So I'm going to start my red, add a little white to it, and again, go into the yellow. Now what the color I'm making here is orange. And I want to keep it on the red and green side, so I want to make sure I have more red than yellow in here, just to keep it in the harmony. So I'll put that right over here. And again, I'm not concerned about this being right exactly. I'm just trying to fill my canvas. Okay, so now I have all my darks in, and which I might have forgotten some. That's okay. That happens all the time. I just have to keep moving. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my lights. So what is my darkest light? And that's inside the basket. So again, I'm going to take my yellow, this is my warm yellow this time, and my warm red, and I'm going to see where I can put this color down, because when you don't put any complementary color in there, it's as bright as that color can be. So I'd rather start too dark and too bright than too dull, because it's easy to dull it down. And right now this is a little bit too dark, but the brightness, the chroma is correct. All right, so now I have this beautiful bright color down here. So now I'm going to squint and almost kind of cross my eyes together, and I want to feel the vibration of the color. Where can I also see this color? I see some of it up in here. I see a lot of it right behind the bunny's head over here, which is really going to add a lot of pizzazz to this once I get it going. Okay, now in here, it's a little bit darker and it's a little browner. So the opposite of orange is blue. So if I add some blue to that, that's going to darken that up. I want to make it just a little bit redder because of the complementary colors. So let's see how that goes in here. That's not quite dark enough. I don't want to keep going if it's way off. So I'm going to make a little bit more cerulean blue and cad red and make it just a little bit darker. That feels good. So I'm just whipping this whole thing in there. Now this is also a big canvas. Usually when I paint outdoors, and I'm trying to break out of that too, is I use smaller canvases. But I really, because I know what I'm doing, the bigger ones I can get away with now. I would recommend if you're a beginner to just stick with the 9x12 or 8x10 because it moves so fast. You're just not going to have, I don't have to worry about how do you make that color. I don't have to worry about drawing it down and making sure the drawing is right. All I'm waiting for is the magic. And right now I'm not anywhere near that magic because I'm just trying to fill in my canvas. All right, so now.
Can you stand off to the side a little more?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, so you can see now that's my darkest light, so everything else that comes next is going to be lighter than that, and I'm going to use the warm side of my colors. So I'm still squinting, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to go about this. So I'm going to take a little white to this now, a little bit more yellow. Oops, wrong yellow. Ooh, this brush is terrible. I brought one of my bad brushes. That's okay because I have a million brushes. And if I want clean color, I want a clean brush. And that brush wasn't quite clean enough there, so. All right, so the color I basically see, I'm gonna just clean my palette off just a little bit because I'm mixing a clean color. And I just made a mess with that other color. And I need that space. As you can see, it took less than 30 seconds to clean my palette off, and I'm going to save a lot of time this way. So again, I'm taking my yellow here, and a little bit of red. And I want to be close. I don't want to be perfect. I want to be close. I mean, yeah, I want to be perfect, but that, I don't have enough down yet. So I'm testing this color in a few spots.
Are you still using Gamsol or is this straight paint?
I'm using just a little Gamsol as I fill up the whole canvas. Okay, once I have the whole canvas done, I generally don't use any more of it. I don't use any medium or anything like that. So again, I want to use this color everywhere I see it, and this is a warm color, so it's going to look nice in these areas. So now I'm going to add a little bit more white to this. And a little bit more yellow. Okay, now I'm going to get this color in here. Again, I'm not trying to make it perfect, I'm just trying to fill my canvas in. Oh dear. My phone never rings. And you know who it is? Oops. It's probably my roof guy. I'm trying to get my roof done. I've been waiting for a week for them to call. So, all right, so while I have this color on my brush, I just want to test it in a few spots. Because that way, number one, you're moving around the canvas. Oh, gosh. I'm sorry. All right. My phone never, I'm telling you, never rings. Okay. So right now that looks good. So now I'm going to take a little of my blue to this to make some of this greenish note here. You can see if you squint and you can't see where one color ends and the other begins, it means that the value is the same. So if you squint and look at this green color I just made compared to the red, you can't see where it begins and ends, which means the value is the same. So I'm going to just put a little bit down here. back in here. And I'm gonna use just a little bit more white. And you see how I love to blend on my canvas? Now just because what is up here, at the beginning I'm trying to copy it exactly, but as I keep moving, I might make certain lines more whimsical. I might change it just for the reason that it looks better than what's actually there. You don't have to copy everything exactly as you see it. You're the god of your own universe. So you have permission. Alright, so now I'm taking a little bit of my cerulean blue with my cad yellow deep. And this is a really warm green. It's much warmer than you think it is. And this time I used just a teeny bit of my cool yellow, because yellow is still a warm color, but it's lighter. It's lighter than my other yellows, and it's darker than white. So I'm able to lighten this color without losing the intensity on there.
Excuse me, Diane, what yellow is that?
This is my lemon yellow. I'm using cad lemon, but I started with my cad yellow. Okay, so my cad yellow is more of an orange.
Yeah.
And I'm using the lemon yellow, even though it's my cool number. There's no absolutes and rules. Rules are made to be broken. They're just there to help you to fix your mistakes when you're in trouble. Okay, again, I'm going to use this color everywhere I can. And right now I see that this bunny is very warm too. So you can see I just did his face with almost one stroke in there because I'm not really concerned. I just want to get this filled so I can have some fun. And I like to have my bounty in case my brush gets dirty. So you see, I put some of these things down too dark, and you can see me going over. As long as I paint thicker than what's there, I can go over that very easily. So you don't want to start off painting too thick. You want to save that for the end. Because if you paint too thick, you can't fix it anymore. But there's remedies for that. I'd rather see you paint too thick than too thin. Too dark than too light, and too bright than too dull. So you see how easy it was for me to just throw them in there? It's the same color as all these others, and the value is about the same. So I'm not wasting time mixing a new color. I'm just getting down everything that I need to get down. Okay. So now let's go to the green egg. So again, I'm going to start with my lemon yellow this time because it's a really cool green in here. And I'm just going to blend it with that color that I have there. So you see why I like to start a little bit darker, because blending on the canvas is so much fun. Okay. So just a little bit more lemon yellow. And that's close enough. And that's the thing with purple and yellow harmonies are the hardest. And this is not even a purple and yellow, it's two harmonies really blended. So now I'm gonna go in with my cad red medium, which is my warm red, and go for the purple here. Now I'm gonna start with the red first, because the cerulean blue that I would mix with my red to make purple is almost too blue. So if I mix them, it's going to end up looking a little bit too dull. So that's what I'm going to have to work by putting colors next to each other to make them look right. Okay, and I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow to that, just because this is also bouncing back up on it. Yeah. Okay, so where else can I use this color? So I'm going to use a little bit up here in the flowers too. And I'm not going to get really busy up here yet. I just want to get rid of the white canvas so I can see my relationships better. Okay, so what do I have to do now? So I'm going to take just a little bit of this green into my yellow mixture. and put this up here. And that, I'm gonna add a little bit more blue, that's just a little bit too yellowy here. You can see how as I'm filling in these colors, I'm making my repairs on my shapes. Okay. So now we just have this light blue in the background. Cerulean blue is the weakest color that there is on the canvas too, so you almost have to use a clean brush to get that color just right down there. Okay, now that I have all this down here, I can see, you know, if there's mistakes. Because I'm painting this demo here, this is kind of blocking my view a little bit, so my drawing is off just a little bit. So now, because I'm using a lot of brushes, I can simply go back to the color that I used before to repair things. So I don't have to keep mixing the color and rinsing it out, mixing it in. I have a lot of brushes, and time is your commodity when you're painting. So having a lot of brushes and cleaning them later, you have plenty of time later. It's not a fun job. There. All right, so once I have my whole painting covered, then I go into my Viva paper towel. Again, you want your paint to be thin at the beginning and thick at the end. So, because you can't fix it once it gets too thick. So what I'm doing here is just putting this down and pressing it without trying to move it. And this is taking off the thick paint without ruining it at all. So this is just paint that is extra. So what Richard Schmidt would do too is he would do this just to kind of loosen it up a little bit. Okay. Now, the most important thing when you're painting is anything for your edges. Wherever your sharpest edges, that's where your center of interest is going to be. Okay, because it draws the eye right to it. Another thing to draw your eye to the center of interest is having your lightest light next to your darkest dark. Okay? And then another way of doing it is having two complementary colors right next to each other. Like these are almost vibrating here. It's probably catching your eye first because they're clean, fresh colors. All right, so now I want to go back in here and I want to start from my darks and work into my lights again because now I can see the painting better and I can go in there and make better repairs before I clean my palette. So this here, you can see how I can just use, I have enough color on my brush, enough paint on my brush to go over what I had. And because I'm painting over these very thin color swatches here, it's very easy for me to go over. So you can see why I'd rather go over it, rather do it thinly at the beginning and too dark because I can go over it very easily. Okay, as we come this way, closer to the light, it gets a little bit more red than blue. Warm colors in the front of your painting, cool colors in the distance. So here you can see this is a little bit more red. And now I can see my drawing a little bit better. I'm going to just bring this down just a little bit here. Now, you don't have to be as exact with your drawing as you do with portraits. As you can see, if you were here the last time, I really, I don't know what was going on, but I was just on fire. And but if you paint every day, that's what happens. You don't have to remember what you did last week and start all over again. You start from a place where you're practiced here, so that looks better in here. Now I'm filling in the background. Again, I'm not making it perfect, I'm just trying to make it better. So I go through layers of painting. So I filled in the canvas, now I'm trying to improve it in the next layer, and then the next time I might try to finish it because I don't have as much time as I normally do. Okay, so again, I have this beautiful color on my brush. Where do I want to put it before I go to the next color? Okay, sometimes colors that are in between two colors, like this halftone, on these plastic eggs, I have a little bit of my warm and my cool red on there. So it's gonna be, I'm gonna use more of the alizarin on the back side, which is my cool red, and more of the cad red medium as it comes towards the center. Now, I have on my website, if you go to my classes, I have my supply list and which colors are warm and cool, so you can just go in there and look that up. So I'm gonna also use this color, soften this edge there, because number one, it's not my center of interest. It's round. Anything that's round, close in value, or soft like here should have a soft edge. So one way to soften an edge is to put a color in between the two colors, and that kind of turns that edge just a little bit there. So again, I want to use this color everywhere before I go the next color. I don't like that there. Ooh, I kind of like that up there. And by doing this, I'm getting more color on my painting than I could if I chose the color each time. And I'm saving time as well. I still have a big brush in my hand. I'm just gonna blend a little bit of it here just to keep the colors nice and bright and sweet. I like this. Again, that's gonna be a real easy fix once I get going again. Okay. So right now, this here is not the worst thing in the painting, so I'm not gonna spend any time at all there right now. I wanna develop these eggs just to get the colors a little bit closer. Because now I have more, like the background's looking better. These two eggs are looking better. This already looks pretty good, and that's not far off. So right now, this is the worst thing in the painting, so I'm fixing that first. So if you're doing a painting and you get stuck, like what do I do next? What's happening? Ask yourself, what's the worst thing in the painting? Not that it's bad or anything, it's just not as advanced as something else. And right now, these eggs are the worst thing. Because the basket, you already have the handles, you have flowers coming out of here. It almost describes the stuff itself without any details. But these are my center of interest, the eggs. Look at that pretty color. And the bunny rabbit. So, all right, now my brushes are laid out almost like crayons, which is something that, you know, I can look very easily and they're not going to get dirty. So I just see that his head now is coming up. So I'm going to make him better now. So if I look and bring a plumb line from his nose to his foot, it's plumb here. So this foot has to come out a little bit further. So because I've been painting so long, this dialogue goes through my head constantly. And I don't have to really even think about it. It's just so natural now because I paint every day, all day long. This is just what I do. I just keep following. But it took me a long, long time to paint this quickly. So don't get discouraged. One of my best friends is, you know, she's a wonderful artist and she doesn't paint fast. And I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do. It's just a byproduct of me working for so long that I've become fast because I've learned how to take all these tricks and use them. All right, so now I'm going to, again, go into that color that I laid down with the bunny rabbit, and now I can go in with some lighter colors. That color is too dark that I put down there, and the eye's in the wrong place. So I'm using a little bit of a thicker paint, and I can go over that very easily. So now my paint is just a little bit thicker. And I might leave some of this darker color on the edges so it will turn nicely too. And this is a small area here. If the light is on this side and you're doing a portrait, I remember I told you that if the light's on this side, your lightest lights have to be near the light. The lights on the left side of the face are going to be a little bit darker than the lights on the right side of the face. And this is a small amount of area here, so it's the same color as the bunny, but because it's surrounded by so much dark, it's gonna appear darker than the rest of the bunny. Does that make sense to you? Because that darkness is diffusing its way in there, whereas this is all surrounded by light. You're not getting that dark to really diffuse in there. So I'm just going around. When I have a color in my brush, I just want to use it everywhere. So I see a little bit of these coming over here, and this is where a good time is for me to use my mouth stick, which is really not doing too good these days. But you know, when I'm outside, I might use a stick, or I can just simply take these and tape them together. But what I like about them is that they do come apart, and it's very lightweight, so you're not carrying all this stuff. All right, so now I can use this to just keep my hand a little bit more steady, because I'm going into the details a little bit. So wherever I see this color, I'm going to start using it. And if it's not right, I don't keep going. I'm not la-di-daring on my painting.
Can you tell us where you're using it, because we don't see from back here?
I need to lean my hand on it to keep it from.
No, where you're using the dots of where you're bringing the color.
Yeah, so I'm using this lighter color to fill in this bunny, but in order to know if this color is right, you have to compare it to something else on the painting. And when I do that, I see, oh, I see that color here, I'll put a little note down. I see that color here, I'll put a little note down. And you wouldn't believe how fast your painting really comes alive when you do that. As you can see, it's really, you could see that, and this is what I love to do too. I like to make a mess and bring it out of the mess, and you go, what the hell is she doing? Then you go, oh! So it's part of the plan. It's part of the entertainment, some of it. Some of it I can't help, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it. All right, so I just keep squinting. Again, this is a little bit lighter and a little bit more yellow here. It's very warm. I'm using a 60-watt incandescent light, not the LED. And that emulates the sunlight really well. So if you're planning to paint outside, the light is great. I also bought this lamp, which I almost brought today, and it's on Amazon for like $35, and you can go anywhere from the light spectrum to the warm spectrum. And it's a great little light. But I wasn't too sure it was going to give me enough light, so I didn't bring it today. See, so I see a little bit of a dot there, that works in there. So I'm just looking for these things, and I'm making this rabbit, which was the worst thing in the painting, not the worst thing anymore. Am I gonna finish it? No, because it's not gonna be the worst thing in the painting in a few seconds. So I just wanna look at my watch. So 7:30, I've been painting for about 45 minutes. And I'm happy with it. Now, again, as a beginner or somebody who's, hasn't been doing this too long, it's hard for you to see what the end is, to know what the end is gonna look like, but I do because I've been doing this for so long. So I'm not gonna get flustered, let's say. So you see, I'm just trying to get rid of this white here, and when I put the color down, it ended up being perfect. So now I don't have to mix that color again. And I have nice thick puddles of paint. I don't know if you noticed that. And you'll see that I'm running out of it already because I'm using nice thick puddles. Okay. So that looks good. Can I use it anywhere else? Yeah, I see this green kind of poking in on this yellow over here. So now I can use my brush strokes to kind of show you the direction of the way that the mat is moving, or I could even do it this way. Sometimes I use my brush strokes to kind of lead me back into the painting. So all of that is important. Okay, so now I see, because I did that, I see that this is not dark enough over here. And I like that color because it's bouncing off this in here. So I should put it in just to be able to compare it to some of my other colors in here.
Yeah, it's very good.
And now while I have this on my brush, I can go in here and repair that edge. It's a soft edge, so I don't want to, because it's round, I don't want a sharp edge on that. And it's the same value as that, almost. So let's go back, because I have all these separate colors and I have all these splotches of puddles of color. I can simply go back and repair that very easily. Now when I put you see I put a color note, a highlight there. If I want to make this green look greener, the opposite of green is red. So I'm going to take some white and tone it with just a teeny bit of pink. And it's going to be light enough to look like a highlight, but that pink that I put there is a trick that artists will use to make the color look brighter. So when you put two complementary colors next to each other, they make them look better. So instead of putting just white there, which is no color, I put pink there.
Where are you putting that, Diane, on the green egg?
Yeah, on the green egg here. So, and then I might put just a little dab of the white right in the middle of that to make it kind of glow, okay? Now with the red egg, I'm gonna go with green, a green highlight. So I'm gonna take another brush and mix a white highlight and just add a little bit of green into that. And it's not something that people really notice, but as an artist, you want to always think about ways to make your colors better. So I have just a little bit of green in there, and it's going to make this look just a little bit brighter than it actually is. Okay.
What kind of brushes are you using?
That's a difficult question because this is my silver Bristlon, which I used to love. And you can see they're really getting towards the end now because I can't find a brush that I love anymore. And the new silver Bristlons are not the same as the old silver Bristlons, even though they cost twice as much. Brushes have just gone out of control. So I used silver Bristlon, and this is the 1600 series. And I also use the Princeton Dakota brushes and Aspen brushes. I'm desperately trying to find brushes that I like now. These aren't my favorite, the new ones aren't my favorite, and they're so expensive. You know, I like to go to the art store and test them out, but I haven't been in an art store since the internet came out, so. But I mean, there's lots of brushes, rosemary brushes, some people swear by. I don't know, it's like, for me at this point now, brushes make a difference, but they don't make the difference that it used to when I was a beginner. The better your tools, the easier it is for you to paint. Okay, so.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are you using like brights or filberts or?
Most of my small brushes are round and most of my like 10 and up are flat.
Oh, okay.
For the most part, but you can see I have a zillion brushes here. And that's because I used to go out and paint 3 to 5 paintings a day, 5 to 7 days a week, and when they all got dirty, then I'd wash them. So I'd have plenty of fresh brushes to use, but you know, I have a lot of these fan brushes. Now I'm using a bunch of mop brushes, which I'm experimenting with. I have, you can see this is a brand new silver Bristlon. I don't even think I used it yet. I'm waiting until I go outside. I have a lot of flat brushes, but you want to have, if you do this and the bristles come out, it's a bad brush, throw it out. So you just gotta go and feel them. You know, when they get a certain size, they don't have to be as good to see. This is spraying here. A lot of times Richard Schmidt would put a piece of cardboard and put a paper clip over them to keep them flat. But these are just so, you know, they're so old, these brushes, and I take good care of them. Some of these are like 20, 30 years old. Sometimes I'll just slice these off with a razor blade to get them flat again. But it's just like, brushes are so expensive. But you can see just the very little that I did over here, it's starting to look more finished. Okay, so again, I asked myself, what's the worst thing in the painting? And it's still, the bunny needs a little bit more work. I'm seeing that his head comes up a little bit higher. And because I put this dark paint down there, darker than I thought I saw, it actually works for me because the color of my brush is a little bit too light. So I'm blending on my canvas. That's the most fun that you can have, is blending on your canvas. Okay, now I can just go back with another brush that I have over here and put the eye in here. So I see that the eye comes a little bit to the right of this ear here. So while I have this color down, I see it gets a little bit darker over here. So I'm going to lay that in. And I see that the basket weeds are doing this. So I can start kind of putting my brush strokes in. I have it on my brush. It takes 2 seconds to do. Just do it. And a lot of what I do as an artist, just do it, is the slogan. It's like, you know, when we were up in Jeffersonville with some of the best artists in the country, you know, you want to keep up with them, and if they're out painting all day long, you're out painting all day long. And it's, you just got to have, just do it, just go out there, and then when you're painting, you forget about your pain and whatever.
You forget about your pain? Did you say pain or your paint?
Well, pain is in painting, so, you know, you gotta suffer for your art. Yeah, so, you know, I'm known as one of the most prolific artists that you know, when I was young, I was painting morning, noon, and night, and I don't do that as much anymore. But I do probably paint more than the next person. Because that's all I do. I mean, I'm an artist, that's my job. Right now I'm just finishing a judge portrait, Judge Bernard from Brockton, and I'm really excited about it. It's coming out really great. And I just did 2 wedding portraits that were tiny, and that's hard. But you see, all it took was that little eyeball in there,
Yeah, it looks really cute.
and to make him look adorable. I'll just put his little pupil in there. Now where can I see? I see a little bit of his nose here, and I see his mouth opening here.
His nose is really cute.
It is cute. And those are things you have to be aware of, especially if you're a portrait painter. You want to find out what it is about that person that makes them them. You know, you really have to know that and try to get their personality down as well. And even though this is an inanimate object, yeah, I'm still trying to do that. So you can see, now that I have more of his face down there, I'm making the background a little bit darker just to bring him out in the open a little bit more. And again, I'm just using my purple and yellow, my reddish purple and my yellowish green together to make this brown color. So if I have more of my warm colors blended of the 2 complementary colors, it's going to look more brown. If I use more of the cooler color, like green, it's going to look more gray. See, so this here is close to this, so I'm making this edge sharper on purpose, just to draw attention away from these eggs and I'm bringing the viewer in, up, around, and back. And they can't leave. It's like hypnosis. They have to buy the painting and take it home with them. So, I mean, just when you think you know everything about art, you know nothing, because it just gets harder because you know more. And you just got to keep on painting. But you see, I didn't stress out about my drawing because I do this all the time. I know that I'm going to get there eventually. For me, if I have enough time, I can paint anything. So I'm seeing that my this egg comes over a little bit more, but I like the way I have it painted better than what I have in front of me, so I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm the god of my own universe. Yeah, that's my throat. Okay, so I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller over on this side here. Okay, so now the rabbit's not the worst thing, the basket is. So I'm just gonna go in here, and what I'm doing is starting from the back and working into the front. So, and I've painted this basket enough to know what this looks like here, if that egg was moved over. Or I could simply move the egg over myself. If I was home, that's what I would do. You can see, using a nice big brush, you can really fill it in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squint again like my life depended on it. And right now I'm seeing in here, this is all reflecting back into, I'm getting a lot of reflective light. And it's kind of orangey. So I'm taking my cool red and my cool yellow, and I'm gonna just play in here a little bit. And I like that, but it's not quite yellow enough. So I'm looking at what these basket, how it's weaved here. And it doesn't take much time to just start going into the light here, but I like this color on here. So now what I can do, when I was painting up we were in Waterville near Jeffersonville, and Dodger Mayer and Jackie Jones were painting next to me, and he's like, "Good God, look at all the brushes you have in your hand." I'm like, that's how I roll. So, okay, so now I can start putting in some of this design in here as it gets a little bit lighter. And only put it where I see it. And that's just a little too light here. I like this line coming here. And then I see this getting a little bit higher over here. So I'm working my way into the light. I have the darks in there, so by adding the lights to it, the darks stay there. Now I don't have to draw them separately. So again, I'm still in the shadow. Down here, it's mostly in the shadow. But I still have my cool colors on my brush. And remember, value is the most important thing. And you don't have to put every little strand of that basket down for the viewer to understand that it's a basket. This is where you want to spend all your detail, not here. So I'm just kind of making an impression of what's happening over there. All I have to do is make a couple of these good, and the viewer will get it. And they won't get tired. If you have too much detail in your painting, the viewer will get tired and they'll walk away from your beautiful piece. And you see, I'm putting detail in there, but it didn't take me long to make it look like a basket because I started from my darks and I worked in a methodical way. By starting with my darks and working slowly into my lights and not filling in every part of those darks. I don't have to do that. Do you guys want to take a break? Do you usually take a break?
Sometimes.
Huh?
Sometimes. If you are you ready for a break?
I don't need a break, but if you guys want a break. All right. Okay. So again, I have these colors on my brush. I can do the same up here. Now my darks up here aren't as dark as the darks over here. So the lights are going to be just a little bit lighter. You see it, and when you come up closer and look at it, you see that it doesn't look like a basket, but if you stand back and squint, it's starting to. All right, so I'm just going to make the back in here just a little bit darker, again, for the same reason. So I don't have to put those darks back in. And my paint is nice and thin still, so it's easy for me to go over and fix these mistakes. Alright, so I'm gonna take a little bit of light. What's the lightest part of in here? So right in here is where I'm seeing the lightest parts of these basket weaves. So wherever I see this color, I want to put it in. And it really all, and this is going to be sharper than this, because that's going in the distance. So I don't have to paint it as sharp and as much detail again. Now I can do that, and if you look at my website or Instagram, I put a still life up recently that I spent 3 months on, and it's exact. But I would never do that again, and I don't have to do it anymore because I'm fast now, and when I did that, I was a kid, and I didn't know what I was doing. But it's up to you. How do you want to do it? And I heard somebody else talking about the looseness or tightness of a painting in here earlier. And yeah, I mean, if you're an artist, you like the looser paintings better, it seems. And when I do commissions, I make them tighter because the viewer, if you're not an artist, you don't understand the difference of the two. You know, it's just more fun to have all this juiciness and color floating around, which I'm going to explain that as well as I'm finishing this up. Because when I paint, I try to make my painting perfect. And then I mess it up. I'm trying to find the magic. So I don't mess it up, but I play just to see what I can get out of it to make it more exciting. And that's where the magic is. So I love these bright yellows over here. Again, I don't have to make it too interesting, because I want my bunny to be interesting. But these colors are just yummy. So that's why I want to do that. So see, I put a little piece of it down there. I didn't like it, so I didn't keep going. That's what being focused is to try things. And if it doesn't work, you don't keep going. It's like Stapleton Kearns would call it licking your painting. You just keep going, you just, oh, this is fun, lick, 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 lick. And you're not looking at what you're doing. And you end up making a mess. You have to be squinting, and when I'm painting these, I'm looking at this. When I'm painting the bunny, I'm looking at this. I'm seeing how each of these things relate to each other. Okay, now I'm going to put a little highlight in his eye. What color should I do? It looks very red, so I'll go with the greenish highlight. And when you put a highlight in somebody's eye, it makes them feel like they're alive. You can see what that little highlight just did. Alright. Again, the rabbit's not the worst part about this. Right now, it's the flowers. And the blanket. But I think the flowers are more important. Again, what I can also do to loosen up these flowers, I can take my paper towel and just kind of blend it and soften it just a little bit. That's a great way of softening, and it's with the Bounty. Okay, so now I'm going to go in and try to pick out a few of these lights in here. So let's, number one, see if the color's right. Damn, I'm good. I'm telling you, I've been doing this so long, sometimes it's like shocking to me. So again, I don't want to paint every petal. You either paint all the petals in the light or all the petals in the shadow. Don't do them on both. You don't need it. But I'm squinting and I'm painting, you know, I have this color on my brush, so I'm trying to find out, you know, where this works. And again, right now they're a little bit sharper than is probably necessary, but I'll go back and I might use the paper towel again to loosen that up. So over here, they're just a little bit, these are a little bit redder over here. And these are a little bit bluer over here, so I think I'll even use another brush. Why not? I don't wash them anymore. So I'm starting with my cerulean blue because that's my weaker color. Ooh, that's an interesting note. So where else can I use that? It's a little bit too light there, but I do like some of this over here. And this is one of my new brushes. Nothing like a new brush. And see, this blue is, I'm putting it down fresh without anything in it, and it's kind of complementing those orangey browns that you see in the basket. I don't want to go nuts with it, but I do want to use it everywhere I see it. And I like that there. I have this light showing here. You see how it almost was like when you take a shower and you look at yourself in the mirror and this, you know, after the shower and you have, you know, the fog is all over the mirror and then you can eventually see yourself. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with this painting here. I'm trying to make this come out of the fog.
I prefer the fog personally.
Yeah, right. Me too, sometimes. Sometimes the fog is easier. Okay, so let's see that over here. I'm gonna make this just a little bit bluer, even though it might not be, because this is receding. So you want the more yellow, orange, and red, you want that to come forward, and the more blue and purple you see, you want that to go into the distance here. So now I just noticed too that I do see some of the table back there, and because I have all my brushes here, I can go back and quickly fix that. And sometimes I like to have a nice horizontal line somewhere just to kind of stabilize the painting, even though I might, you know, add a line here and there just to exaggerate that. So here, in order to make that look right, I'm going to have this go off the edge like that. And now it's a little bit more whimsical than it was. Does anyone have any questions? I just want to talk about myself just for a little bit. I started at Vespa George, and I went there. It was a 3-year commercial art school. But it was taught by teachers and not by, I mean, it's taught by artists, not teachers. And they were all professional and doing pretty well, each their own. And I had Robert Douglas Hunter and Robert Cormier and all these great artists in there. And Vespa George closed a year after I graduated.
Where was that, Diane?
It was on, right off, you know where the Marriott is, in the Back Bay,
Oh, so
Right.
it was in Boston.
right near Utrecht and Mass Ave and all that, yeah. And so they opened an atelier, and I was the first person chose for it. It was a 5-year, year-round program, and it was all scholarship. And it was, David Curtis was the gallery manager at the Guild right below. I was on Newbury Street for the atelier. And we would go downstairs and have lunch with David Curtis, whose father was Roger Curtis, who was probably one of my biggest mentors. And I realized what I wanted to do with my life, because I wasn't book smart, you know, I wasn't trivia. Vision. Everything for me is about how I see things. I'm just gonna put a little bit of purple in here. So they opened an atelier, and you learned how to do one thing before they allowed you to do the next. So at first you drew from a book, and you copied the drawings, these exact drawings that bar drawings, which, you know, black and white. And then once you could do that, then you worked with casts, and we did that for 2 years. And once we were efficient at that, then we would go to color. And once we were good in color, then we would do the nude, and then we'd go from black and white to color in there, and then we went outside. So we really had to learn to do one thing and do it well. And it was year-round, full-time,
Wow.
5 days a week. So it taught you that art is not a game, it's not a hobby. If you want to be good at it, you have to be dedicated to it. If you look at any artist that's out there doing well, it's like a, you know, they're like priests. They're devoted to it. And that's how you have to be. Yeah, you can get goods not doing it all the time, but it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer. So now I'm just going back and around, and again, I'm asking myself, what's the worst thing in the painting, and making it the best. And once you fix the worst thing in the painting, the next thing almost pops out at you. So it's pretty easy if you just keep that in mind. What's the worst thing in the painting? You know, you start from the darks and go into the lights, and then you try to make it all better. Then you do it again. Like now I'm going back into the darks and fixing those. So, and before you know it, you're done, and it's like, oh my God, you know, if you're focused and you're serious about it, the time goes by so fast. It's like you almost don't even know. You see yourself painting till 2 o'clock in the morning, which I can't do anymore because my damn dog puts me to bed. So now I'm just, you know, and then, you know, sometimes I don't know how to pick a color or to choose something new. So I'll do one color at a time, and I'll say, oh, where can this go? Right now I see these nice cool green notes in here to bring out the reds of that basket and some of the shadows. And when you guys come up here, I want you to see if you can see them too. And a lot of times, you know, when I was a teacher, I would say to my students, squint, but don't look exactly at that. Look over here to see what color that is. And even if you don't see it, put it down anyway, and then it turns your eye onto that color. So don't be afraid of putting colors that aren't there down, because you might come to see it. And I've been trying to stop and clean my palette for the last half hour here.
Diane, do you ever work in anything besides oils?
Well, I started as acrylic and then went to watercolor, and then pastel, and then I found oils, and that was the end of that. I love oils. It's so easy. You can see how, look at, in less than a minute, I can clean my palette and have all this clean space. New palette is awesome. And it usually takes only 1 or 2 paper towels too. So I just dip a little bit of this in my Gamsol.
Do you like wood palettes the best?
You know, I've been painting for so long, I use both wood and the tempered glass.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter to me. Again, it's like the brushes. It's like when you know what you're doing, you know, it's easier if you have good stuff, but you can manage with just about anything. Except for bad paint. Don't buy Groom Cracker. And don't buy Winton. Ugh. Horrible. So now I have all this clean space to work, and I usually do this a half an hour before I finish. I don't know what time it is now. What time did we go to, Carol?
9.
9, okay, good. That's still plenty of time. All right, so I got a clean palette. The next thing I want to look at is, do I have enough paint down? You saw how much paint I put down, and I need more. And even if you have 5 minutes left and you run out of paint, put more down or quit painting, because you're just gonna make a mess. Okay, so now I can stand back. Another thing I can do is look in my mirror if I brought one. But sometimes I'll look in the mirror, I'll stand behind and I'll look in the mirror and see it in the background. And that gives me a fresh eye because everything is backwards. Alright, so now I'm looking at this and I'm like, you know what, I really like the way, because you get tired as you go along. So you have to remain fresh. Standing back, putting the cup over your eye, using the mirror are all ways to keep fresh. Okay, now I'm seeing that the way that the table is turning is kind of interesting in here, which I didn't see before because I was focused on getting my center of interest in there. So I'm seeing that the table kind of turns and then that turns downwards, and that kind of looks nice. So I'm going to do that. And I think this is going to make this painting read better too. And I want this to be a little duller over here, so I'm adding a little red to it. When you want to dull down a color, you use its complementary color. When you want to make a color look better, you put two complementary colors next to each other because they complement each other. So this red and green, they're really vibrating because they're working off each other. So again, don't just throw a color down that you mix. Always double check it first. And this edge is way too sharp, so I want to soften that, leave that in the background. This table is coming back up this way, so I'm just going to keep that nice and soft. So now I've got it down, it's looking pretty good. So it's basically playtime. And usually the first third of my day, my painting, I try to make it perfect. The second part of my painting is I play. I'm trying to make it better at the same time, but I'm doing a lot of playing at this point. And now I can kind of like start putting colors around. And thinking about my edges. And again, if you're putting paint down and it's blending with what's underneath, that means your paint is too thick. And you can go back and use your Viva paper towel to soften it. Or you can scrape it off with a palette knife, which works quite nicely too. See, now that kind of makes it, like, it gives it planes here. And I might use my brush strokes to lead the viewer in as well. So instead of having a flat edge over here, I might have my brush strokes leading into the painting, which looks a lot more exciting. So now I might put a few areas a little bit lighter. And then I might go in and use the same value of its complementary color. And now I have 3 colors there instead of 1. So the painting is going to vibrate because I have three colors next to each other that aren't blending with each other, but are making that more interesting. And then I'm going to show you in another way how to do that. So up here, let's take this blue right out of the jar, the tube here. So now I might put this blue like confetti up here. And it's next to the red here, so I'm leaving some of that poking through. Then I can go in with the red and do the same thing. So right now that's too light, so I don't want to keep going there, but where else can I use it? I'll put it near the green to make that green look more green. So I need to make that darker.
You putting those on the flowers? I can't
Yeah,
see.
I gotta go back into that. I keep forgetting because I have so many things I want to tell you. So right now I'm putting this red in here. So now I have red and blue next to each other, not kind of blending, just laying near each other. They're the same value, so you're gonna have much more vibrancy coming out of that than just a plain background. Ultramarine blue. So I have two colors showing in here, and I can even use yellow in here if I want to, but I just can't blend it with the red or blue because then it will dull itself out. And you can see how it, all of a sudden it just feels like a light turned on because I'm playing this game with it. So instead of just having a flat color there, and it's gonna look way more interesting too. Okay, so let's go back into the flowers. Okay. So I'm going into these darks. I just wanna make these a little bit darker. I'm gonna move them over a little bit too. I made the basket a little bit wider, but I'm the god of my own universe, so I don't care. So these are the flowers that are in the back. They have a little bit more blue than red. Now I'm going to add a little bit more red as these flowers come out over here. So I'm giving you the illusion of depth by using cool colors in the background and warm colors in the foreground. So we're magicians. You know, we have to use our knowledge to make your painting interesting. You see, I ran out of paint. And rather than fool around, I put more down and now I can keep going. I like the way that this dark is here. But of course, it doesn't look dark enough because I don't have my lights in yet. And again, nobody's gonna know if there's a leaf out of place here. All you want to do is make one or two of these lilac leaves perfect, and the viewer will figure out the rest. So you just gotta squint. Which ones do you see pop out the most? When you almost close your eyes, what is the last thing you see? And that's gonna be your sharpest edges there. And it's hard to do, trust me. So a lot of times, you know, my father would always say, put more red in that, put more red in that. Well, red is the most exciting color, I think, on the palette. And if you put red in your painting, it, you know, people are attracted to it. So don't be afraid of it. You can always tone it down. So if I took this red right out of the jar right now, let's see where I can put it. I don't know for sure, but once I start putting it down, you see those little pieces of red? Once I put it down, then you start seeing it everywhere. So don't be afraid. You can always scrape it off. And it's just going to make your painting look, this is such a warm painting. All right, now I'm going to go, because I'm going for a cleaner color, I'm going for another clean brush. I want to get these pinks. Now that I put the pink down, I'm seeing it everywhere, so now I want to get that better. after I got out of the atelier, Sam Bulkey took my studio. I took it from Thomas Dunley. And I painted every day, 3 to 5 paintings a day, 5 to 7 days a week, and I did that for years and years and years. So if I'm fast, that's why. And then I started to teach, and I got even faster because you have to explain it to your students in a way that they understand. And you have to show them. I'd do a demo every day. It would take me like 15, 20 minutes, and I'd do some pretty cool little sketches, which I recommend that you do every day. Just do something for an hour a day. Just do your cup of coffee in the light, paint that, and see how it comes out. Do an apple, do one thing a day, and you will be so happy, and you'll get better so fast. So, again, I'm looking all around my painting, and I'm trying to get these colors better. And in some areas, I might have a sharper line, just again, to fix my composition and keep the viewer's eye moving around the painting. And now I might use bigger brushes or smaller brushes, and I might break up my color a little bit more, just to make it more exciting. The broken color gives a little action to your painting. So now I can add these squares in a little bit. Again, they're the same value, so it's not really super important. Now I can put a little of this detail in there from the mat. I can put some of this edge in here a little bit more. There's some of those little squiggles in there. And I can add more than that's what's there if it looks more interesting, because I'm the god of my own universe. And there, so.
Almost looks like you have lilacs in the background.
I know, I still gotta keep going, but I keep getting sidetracked. But this is a good thing, because when you compare a color from here to here, there to there, you see your mistakes. You know you're gonna go back to that. But this is, you've got the color on your brush, and this has caught your attention. So you just keep doing that, and I mean, I'm moving forward either way I look at it. And I know I'll get there. Again, back to the red. Now I'll go back in here. And sometimes I like to just draw little hearts on for these flowers and just see where it goes. Again, I'm just playing still. I'm not in panic mode yet. I got 45 minutes. But you can see when you're kind of level-headed and you just take this in a very disciplined way, it almost paints itself. So this time I have a little bit more red on my brush. And then I'll go in with a little bit more blue, which is easy because I have all these brushes handy. Now I'm going to be really bummed out when I go home and I have to wash all these. But, you know, again, if you paint with discipline, this is what you got to do. This is just how the pros do it. You know, time is your commodity, not your brushes. it too blue in here, but I don't care, because I like it. So I'm using it everywhere else first. Now I'm gonna add just a little bit of red to it, just to dull it down a little bit. And I'm squinting, and jiggling my eyes back and forth. What I'm doing is I'm bringing my eyes here to here, here to here, here to here, and I'm trying to see anything that is moving. Like if you look at one of those books and you put little stick figures in it and you ruffle the page and you can see them running. If you feel any of that kind of movement in there, then there's something that's wrong in this case. So now I've got my lights in there, now I'll go back in and pick out a few of these darks. So it's just going back and forth, back and forth. Now I have this on my brush. Can I use this anywhere over here? I'll put a little bit more red in there. This is such a warm painting. And now I can go in and pick out a few of these holes that might be a little bit darker. And it's getting better and better. Just don't panic. The nice thing about the still life too is you can simply shut the light off and turn it back on the next day if you want to work on it more. You know, if you're painting outdoors and you don't finish it, the best thing to do is to go back the next day in the same weather, at the same time of day, and work on it some more. And that is something that you really need to do. Like when I used to paint in Boston all the time, and I would paint from say 9 to 12, and then 12 to 3, and 3 to whatever. And it would take me 3 times of going back on that scene for me to be able to finish it. But now, my first hour is my first day in the old days. And I'm so much faster, I don't need to do it like that. Although, you know, with the bigger paintings, it's not a bad idea to go back and do it some more. Which
Now,
I'm
you
gonna
paint
do.
on the common and stuff, where do you park?
I used to be the meter queen, but they've screwed up Boston so bad, and it's $46 a day for parking. So generally what I do now is go in on a Sunday really early in the morning. And this box here holds 3 paintings, and you can close it and they're wet. So, and then I have a little porta potty tent that I have with me, and nobody knows what it is. And I'll tell you, that thing is magic. When we were up in Jeffersonville, like my friends were like, I'm not going in that. And then at the end they're like, I'm buying one of those. It comes in a circle and you spread it out and it pops up and it looks like a telephone booth. And it's black. And, you know, I put my 2 doors open and I put that in the middle of it and nobody knows what you're doing. And I tell you, you know, I'm the queen of plein air painting. And I taught some of the bigwigs some of these hacks that I use when I go out there. You do what you have to do, you know, men got it easy. But this little tent, I'll tell you, I mean, I bought an RV so I could go out painting. And I have a little bathroom in it, but my dog is afraid of it. So that didn't turn out the way I hoped.
The dog rules the roost.
He rules the roost. Don't get a dog if you're an artist.
I'll tell you.
Don't do it. Carol, don't get a dog, whatever you do. They're worse than the husbands.
I babysit my daughter's golden retriever. I haven't painted in days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love them and I'm glad I have them, but I've never had a dog on my own before, and this dog is broken.
What kind of dog?
He's a rat terrier and he's got so many, issues. He must have been traumatized before I got him.
High energy.
It's not that, he's just afraid of everything. Afraid of little kids, he's afraid of cars, so I can't just walk on the sidewalk. I got the RV, if I put the heater, the air conditioning on, he goes out of his mind. It's just like, it's not what I had planned on. I've always had big dogs, and this is a little dog. And, oh, he's so much different. Now, see how I'm putting these darks in here? This is the light side of my basket. None of these darks should be darker than the darks on the dark side of the, because all these lights are diffusing themselves in there, so I either have to make these darks darker, or I have to make these darks just a little bit lighter, which is what I'm gonna do. And right now I have too much paint down. Now, when you do a painting and you want to know where your darks go, and where your thick paint goes and where your thin paint goes, you want to keep your darks thin and your lights thick, because when this is hanging up on a wall and the light is hitting it, it's going to strike the thickest parts first. So if your darks are really thick and it hits that, it's going to make the darks look too light. So you want your darks to be thin and transparent and your lights thick and juicy to make it look right. So right here, I can't fix that. So instead of doing this over my whole painting, I'm just going to do it where I'm working. And that's doing two things. It's actually lightening that dark, and it's making it thin enough that now I can go back over and paint on it. And I just love this cad yellowish color of this wicker basket. And the nice thing about doing still life too is you can buy a lobster, paint it, eat it, and write it off on your taxes. I go on great trips. I just did the Amalfi Coast this year and Greece last year. I get to write it all off. So, once you start making money at this, it's not a bad place to be.
Dianne, do you show your work at Barrett Gallery?
What's that?
And at the Barrett, do you show your work there?
Yeah. I thought you looked familiar.
You're telling the story about the dog.
Yeah, you met my dog. That's funny. I know her. She was familiar. I haven't seen you in a while now. What's your name again?
Jane.
Jane. That's right. I don't know if we'll be selling paintings that much with this economy, but this friend told me this is when you just try to learn how to be better. I like that advice. We'll be up in Kennebunkport next Monday.
Oh.
Do you live out by there?
No, I don't live by there. I live by here.
Oh, wow, so you go a long ways.
I do.
And Carol Arnold, she's up there too. She went to Jeffersonville with me too. Boy, was that fun.
Where's Jeffersonville?
Is that like invitation only?
No.
You can just go.
There's no rules. It's just, what happened was, in the old days, Hibbard, John Carlson, Coleman, all these great artists would go up there and they'd stay at this inn, which I stayed at, which is almost falling down. And they wanted to keep the tradition going. So Stapleton Kearns would go up with a bunch of his friends, and then they said, just in March, we're all going up there. Number one, the sun is out later, and there's snow on the ground.
Yeah.
And it's not freezing like it is in January, although it can be. And it's just growing and growing and growing, and it's all of March, and you don't have to sign up. And now they have parties everywhere afterwards, so all the galleries open up and they have dinners for the artists and stuff. And, I mean, Rosalie Sadati, Stapleton Kearns, Dale Radcliffe, Don Demers, Tam Nicholas, Holly Bartlett, it just goes on and on.
All the big names.
All the big names are up there, you know, and Garen Baker, and
Where's Jeffersonville? I've never
it's almost
heard
up
of it.
into Canada in Vermont.
Oh,
It's
okay.
near Lake Champlain.
Oh, okay.
It's like in the
And,
middle.
Stowe, it's right next to Stowe.
Oh, okay.
So it's just gorgeous. Now and the Bryan Museum at the gallery has 2 galleries, one in Stowe and one in Jeffersonville. So I did it 13 years ago, and it was freezing. It was 0 degrees out there, and it was still a lot of fun. And you paint as much or as little as you want. You paint where you want. Like everybody meets at the inn in the morning. They have their coffee. They all say hi, and then they all go off and paint. And then there's a few parties here and there, and it's just a blast.
So you go up for the whole week, what do you do with all your paintings?
They're sitting on my table, probably.
I mean, when you're up there.
Oh, I have I'm a plein air painter. I have boxes that I put in, you know, wet paint carriers and stuff like that. So, yeah. You learn, but you know, you gotta start somewhere. And even if you just go, I mean, because it's such a small area in Jeffersonville, it's like a big circle, and it's all mountains on the edges and farmland on the inside. So even if you just went and watched all the artists, it's such a blast. It's like just the caliber of artists that are there. I mean, I feel bad because I know I'm leaving a few really important people out, but it's just what I needed at that time, because I usually go to Florida at that time, and then everybody had plans. So I said, what am I going to do? And I said, oh, I think I'll go back up there. And that was awesome. That was exactly what I needed. You get inspired and.
Now, do they do critiques at night or anything like that?
No. No, there's a lot of drinking at night. You know, work hard, party hard kind of thing. Yeah, at the inn, there's a restaurant there too, which I liked. I mean, a lot of people got houses, which is cheaper, but everybody meets at the inn, so I stayed there, and you know, you can go down and drink and walk up to your room. It's really great. But if you look up the Jeffersonville Rendezvous on Facebook, and that you'll be able to see a lot of the artists who are up there, Todd Montanaro, and it just goes on and on. And you see a lot of the work posted. Dennis Doyle, yes, my buddy. Yes.
He's a character.
How do you know Dennis?
Just plenty of things.
Oh, have you had him here?
No.
You should have him here.
Where does he live?
He lives right by me,
Oh.
like 2 miles
So
away.
you wouldn't mind coming here?
Well, I told him I'm gonna start giving out his name. So too bad if he minds. Yeah, he's coming. He's so good.
Is that a
just love
train?
him.
Yeah, the
I
train
know
goes
him
right
from
behind that building.
N.W. Barrett Gallery, yeah, too.
Boy, that's why the building is set forward.
That's exactly why.
He wears more paint than he paints on his
Dennis the Menace. I mean, Dennis couldn't be a better name than him. He's just, and what he's doing now, I don't know, since he's been back from Jeffersonville, is just blowing my mind. It's so good.
Every day, he paints every day.
Every day, all day. He's about the only person I can say keeps up with me. So you can see now, I mean, it's really, you know, I can keep going and I can keep going. And it's just gonna get better, but you can see how disciplined I was in my approach to it. Again, using your harmonies, you only have 3 colors in your lights and 3 colors in your shadows. And so it just makes everything so much easier. Now what I like to tell my students to do towards the end is just use up all your paint. See where you can use some of these colors to make your painting more exciting. And again, you're the god of your own universe. You can make them any color you want. You can put color anywhere you want. But it helps to know what you're doing, although I guess.
When you travel like that, are you always bringing boards with you? Is that all you work on, or what do you
If
do
you go on my
different?
blog spot, it's Dianne Panarelli Miller blogspot.com. It tells you how I put all my gear together and go on planes and trips and stuff. So if you ever were curious on how to do that, you can find it on my blog spot. And I think that's on the back of my brochure. Yeah.
She's done demos before where she's emptied this bag and you have no idea how much stuff is in that bag.
So now I'm just kind of trying to use up all my paint, making this a little bit more exciting. And talk about thick paint, Dennis. Whew. I remember the first time I saw his work, and he would have paint that was that thick on like a highlight of a window that was shining, and it would just like blow your mind. So again, I'm using this really pretty pink, and I want to try to use it everywhere that I can. Now I'm trying to pull some of these squares out that are here. And not that it's really important, but
Oh, that's good.
put a little pink nose down there. Now I can just spend the rest of the time making him look absolutely perfect. Gotta put a smile on his face. And this is where you really want to use your maul stick just to keep your hand steady.
Where did you get that mouse?
Actually, somebody gave it to me. What it is a dog training stick.
Oh.
So it tells the dog where to go if they're doing a running course. But you can also get these at golf stores. They have these, they have lines and stuff in there. It tells you how to swing. So, and they're about $15, so, and they last forever. So yeah, I should go out and get a new one, but I think I like this because the person that gave it to me, it's special. So I just can't get rid of it. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, so we're planning on doing a workshop, plein air workshop. We haven't figured out the exact date yet.
Maybe make it one of the June dates, so I
Yeah.
can get it in the paper.
Okay, yeah, I'll look at it when
The
I get
deadline
home.
was today.
I know I have something on the 7th, but besides that, I'm pretty much free. So what we'll do, and if you take that workshop after seeing this, it'll make it so much easier for you to understand how to go about doing it outside too. Because what I do is a couple demos. I do one in the morning, and then I'll do another one in the afternoon, and they don't take up too much time, because I know what you want to paint. And it's fun. It's, just being outdoors for me is a thrill. So I love being outdoors. I just love it. And I can show you all my gear. I know we did one, what was that? We did the
Be right over
mill,
across the
yeah.
street, yeah.
And I had all my gear. And my car is like an office. And it's got chairs in there. I usually have 2 to 3 easels in there in case I forget one. And I always have extra paint. And I always have screws and nuts and bolts in case somebody's easel falls apart and I can fix it. And I have my big Shade Buddy umbrella. And then I have these cooling devices, which are a riot.
Is it battery operated?
Yeah, 2 of them are fans. And then I have this, it's called a Frogger. It's a blanket that you wet and it never gets dry. And it keeps you cool. And I'll tell you, I painted out in Wyoming and you needed every one of those tools. See, so right now, like what I did in the first hour or two, it looked like the painting, but now I can go as far as I want in finishing this. And everything I do at this point, I don't want to make mistakes anymore. Like, I was playing for a while, but now I'm trying to finish this, so I'm not playing as much anymore. So I don't know if you guys want to come up and take a peek at this to see, and try to look at it so you're jiggling your eye right back and forth to see how close I've come.
Thank you.
So I mean, it's not finished, but it's sometimes it looks better at this stage than it being completely finished.